So Toy Story 5 is a thing now. I wasn't quite sure what to expect with this one. I figured it would at least be passable, but then the reviews started coming out and they were generally really positive. So I went into that theater hoping for a surprisingly good time and eh. The film's only been out for like a day as of me writing this, but the consensus seems to be that it's actually great. And honestly, I just don't get it. This movie's kind of a mess. I'm one of those people that actually thinks 4 is on par with the original trilogy, but I don't think 5 justifies its existence nearly as well as that one. Before I get into that though, let's start with some positives. I like that this movie primarily follows Jessie. Her arc surrounding her feelings on technology and how the events of the film affect her is all handled pretty well. It wraps up her story specifically very well in a similar fashion to how 4 wrapped up Woody's story, and it ties back to the second film in a very satisfying and non-nostalgia baity way, which is surprising considering this movie is not a stranger to nostalgia bait. I was worried they were gonna bring back Emily to force some emotional reunion, but they go in a much more natural direction, while still incorporating her connection to Emily in a clever way. I also liked Bonnie's story and how she struggles to make friends and how technology ends up both helping and hurting her in the process. Speaking of which, the antagonist Lilypad does her job well. She's definitely not the best antagonist in the series, but she has a nice arc, and her beef with Jessie and the other non-tech toys felt very natural, unlike another beef we'll get to. Okay, good things. I liked the new side characters a good amount, the toilet paper roll guy and Map Hippo and the camera. They were definitely some of the funniest and most endearing characters in the movie. Smarty Pants seems to have some kind of symbiotic relationship with this sticky hand, and it makes for a fun visual whenever he's on screen. The animation is expectedly spectacular. It's not really breaking any new ground, but boy is it pretty regardless. I thought what I'll call the imagination sequences, where the film takes on a more stylized look, were really neat, and the backgrounds, animals, and lighting were consistently impressive. You can really see where that $250 million went. My favorite part of the movie, though, was probably the Buzz Lightyear army. Shambhapolis Productions said they're like Pikmin. I couldn't agree more. They have little bearing on the plot for most of the runtime, which is a shame, but that doesn't stop them from being the most fun aspect of the whole movie. Weirdly enough, this movie actually sort of fixes a major plot hole in the first film, that being why does Buzz go limp when Andy's around when he doesn't understand that he's a toy, by making it clear that it's just kind of a toy reflex to do so around humans. That's neat. Sadly though, I think that's where the positives end. Okay, so the Jessie stuff is well written, but I can't say the same about the rest of the movie. So much of this movie is just a blur in my mind because the first half or so is so obnoxiously fast-paced. There's a point towards the end where Jessie's all sad and they actually slow things down, and I just thought, oh hey, I can breathe. I had to rack my brain to remember what even happened near the beginning. I also don't like the way the story moves forward at points. Real convenient that Woody and Jessie have walkie-talkies to communicate with each other. Real convenient that Jessie still has the address of her old owner written on her. Real convenient that Smarty Pants can send and receive messages. Do they ever explain how you can do that? If I missed them explaining how you can do that, then let me know. There is no reason for Woody to be in this movie. I guess I should elaborate more on what I mean with that, since IGN said the same thing and everyone started clowning on them because they're IGN, I don't know. I'm not saying that Woody shouldn't be here, he should, and it wouldn't feel like Toy Story without him, and it makes sense for his character to return to help his friends. My problem is that he's used almost purely for comic relief and nostalgia bait. If he had a heart-to-heart with Buzz or Jessie at some point, then he would actually be adding something to the story. But as is, he's mostly used for lame slapstick. He's basically dead weight for the whole adventure, which is not what he should be. I'm not saying he needs to be the focus of the film, obviously, but give him any plot relevance instead of him just being another character on this adventure. He and Buzz are constantly beefing for a lot of the movie, and I guess that is something for him to do, but it feels so forced and out of character. And you know they only made them like that because, hey, remember the first movie?
It's good to see them fighting again.
Fuck off.
There are multiple references to the first movie, and while they're a little charming, they still feel like such low-hanging fruit. Speaking of Buzz though, I didn't hate him in this movie, but I also didn't love him. He's certainly better written here than in 4, and I respect the effort, but they could have done a way better job with him. I already brought up his beef with Woody, but apart from that, he also wants to propose to Jessie. There's nothing inherently wrong with that idea, but it feels so tacked on here. It doesn't add to the themes of the film at all. It doesn't connect back to the idea of technology, or even Jessie's arc if I remember correctly. It's just there to give Buzz something to do besides going to find her once she leaves. It's cute, but it's nothing special. And that's a good synopsis for this whole movie, honestly. It's fairly cute and light and fun and funny, and I think it meets the baseline requirements for being a good Toy Story movie, but it doesn't tell that great of a story. You could argue that fun is all it needs to be, but this is Toy Story we're talking about. I feel like it should have been more. Not to mention, it's definitely trying to be more than just fun. When they revealed that this movie would be focused on technology, I was honestly somewhat optimistic, unlike a lot of people at the time, because if any franchise could tackle the effect technology has on kids, I thought it's Toy Story. But not even that side of the movie goes far enough in my opinion. The film doesn't have an incorrect or harmful stance on technology, and it certainly goes in the direction I think it should have, but it's not really adding anything meaningful to that conversation. Toy Story 5 isn't bad, but it's the weakest film in the series by a mile. Honestly, I think if you dislike 4 simply because it didn't need to exist but enjoyed this one, and that's kind of hypocritical because, like I said earlier, I'd argued 5 justifies its existence even less than that one. With that being said, if they're just gonna keep making these, I guess that's fine. As long as they don't say this is the final film in the series again, unless they actually mean it. I'm giving Toy Story 5 a 6 out of 10. Between it, GOAT, and the Mario Galaxy movie, I've learned to never get my hopes up for anything and to always expect mediocrity. Except for Hoppers, that one was pretty good.